Robbins. We're about to finish up this book, so there'll be 2 readings today, 2 parts, both 15 minutes long. And we'll finish the story in the second part. So where we left off, Wart had been turned into a badger, and he ran into a hedgehog, and the hedgehog was very, very afraid of Wart. The hedgehog thought that Wart the badger was going to gobble him up. And he had thought about it for a second, but then in talking to the hedgehog, he felt kind of bad for him and decided to leave the poor little creature alone. Instead, he went on to meet the old badger who was writing a long story about how all the different animals had come to be and how each animal has its own skill. So like the badgers have big forearms to help them from digging, and you might have big wings if that's the skill set that you want to have. But for the humans decided to kind of stay plain throughout their whole existence, but to sort of learn how to use the tools that were around them. And Wart thought that the story was very interesting, but in their conversations they continued to come up to the same thing that Wart always seems to come up with, that humans are different than animals because humans always start wars. And that's an interesting thing because Wart is always very confused about the animals' reactions to this. If you remember, a lot of the animals that he ran into, when he talks about humans fighting other humans and having wars and battles, all the other animals think that this is like the most absurd thing. They can't understand why a creature would fight against its own creatures, like in a big way. You might have to fight a little bit, like one-on-one, maybe like 2 deer will fight or something like that, but not a whole army of deer against another whole army of deer. They think that this is like, whoa, you must be completely mad to be doing something like that. So it's an interesting thing for somebody to think about for a long time. You know, why do the animals think that that is so strange? And why does Wart not seem to understand this? Why does he keep on thinking that they think it's strange? So I want you to think about that. Okay. King Pellinor arrived for the important weekend in a high state of flurry. "I say," he exclaimed, "do you know? Have you heard? Is it a secret? What?" "What is what a secret? What?" they asked him. "Why, the king!" cried his majesty. "You know about the king." "What's the matter with the king?" inquired Sir Ector. "You don't say he's coming down to hunt with those damned hounds of his or anything like that?" "He's dead!" cried King Pellinor tragically. "He's dead, poor fella, and can't hunt any more." Sir Gremore stood up respectfully and took off his cap of maintenance. "The king is dead," he said. "Long live the king." Everybody else felt that they ought to stand up too, and the boy's nurse burst into tears. There, she sobbed. "His Loyal Highness dead and gone, and him such a respectful gentleman. Many is the illuminated picture I've cut out of him from the illustrated missals, and stuck up over the mantle. From the time when he was in swaddling bands right through them towers till he was a visiting the dispersed areas as the world's Prince Charming, there wasn't a picture of him. But I had it out, and give him a lost out of o' nights." "Compose yourself, Nanny," said Sir Ector. "It is solemn, isn't it?" said King Pellinor. "What? Uther the Conqueror, 1066 to 1216. A solemn moment," said Sir Gremore. "The king is dead. Long live the king." "We ought to pull down the curtains," said Kay, who was always a stickler for good form, "or half-mast the banners." "That's right," said Sir Ector. "Somebody go and tell the sergeant-at-arms." It was obviously the Wart's duty to execute this command, for he was now the junior nobleman present, so he ran out cheerfully to find the sergeant. Soon those who were left in the solar could hear a voice crying out, "Now then, 1, 2, special warning for her light majesty, Laura away on the command, 2." and then the flapping of all the standards, banners, pennons, pennicels, banderoles, guidons, streamers, cognizances, which made the snowy turrets of the Forest Sauvage. "How did you hear?" asked Sir Ector. "Well, I was prickling through the purlieus of the forest after the beast, you know, when I met with a solemn friar of orders grey, and he told me it is the very latest news." "Poor old Pendragon," said Sir Ector. "The king is dead," said Sir Gremore solemnly. "Long live the king." "It is all very well for you to keep on mentioning that, my dear Grumore," exclaimed the King Pellinore petulantly. "But who is this king, what, that is to live so long, what, according to you?" "Well, his heir," said Sir Gremore, rather taken aback. "Our blessed monarch." "Good gracious!" exclaimed Sir Ector. "He must have a next of kin." "That's just it," cried King Pellinore in high excitement. "That's the exciting part of it, what? No heir and no extent of skin. Who's to succeed the throne? That's what my friar was so excited about, what? And why he was asking who could succeed to what? "Do you mean to tell me," exclaimed Sir Gremore indignantly, "that there ain't no king of Greymere?" "Not a scrap of one," cried King Pellinore, feeling important. "And there have been signs and wonders of no mean might." "I think that's a scandal," said Sir Gremore. "God knows what the dear old country is coming to, due to these lollards and communists, no doubt." "But what sort of signs and wonders?" asked Sir Ector. "Well, there has appeared a sort of sword and a stone, what, in a sort of church. Not in the church, you see, what I mean, and not in a stone, but that sort of thing, what, like you might say." "I don't know what the church is coming to," said Sir Gremore. "It's an anvil," explained the king. "The church? No, the sword." "But I thought you said the sword was in the stone." "No," said King Pellinore. "The stone is outside of the church." "Look here, Pellinore," said Sir Ector. "You have a bit of a rest, old boy, and start again. Here, drink up this horn of mead and take it easy." "The sword," said King Pellinore, "is stuck through an anvil which stands on a stone. It goes right through the anvil and into the stone. The anvil is stuck to the stone. The stone stands outside of a church. Give me some more mead." "I don't think that's much of a wonder," remarked Sir Gremore. "What I wonder is that they should allow such things to happen. But you can't tell nowadays with all these Saxon agitators." "My dear fella," cried Pellinore, getting excited again, "it's not where the stone is, what, that I'm trying to tell you, but what is written on it, what, where it is." "What?" "Why, it's on its pommel." "Oh, come on, Pellinore," said Sir Ector. "You just sit quite still with your face to the wall for a minute, and then tell us what you're talking about. Take it easy, old boy, no need for hurrying. You sit still and look at the wall, there's a good chap, and talk as slow as you can." "There are words written on the sword in the stone outside the church," cried King Pellinore piteously. "And these words are as follows. Oh, do try to listen to me, you two, instead of interrupting all the time about nothing, for it makes a man's head go ever so." "But what are these words?" asked Kay. "These words say this," said King Pellinore, "so far as I can understand from that old friar of orders grey." "Go on, do," said Kay, for the night had come to a halt. "Go on," said Sir Ector. "What do these words on the sword and the anvil in the stone outside of the church say?" "Some red propaganda, no doubt," remarked Sir Gremore. King Pellinore closed his eyes tight, extended his arms in both directions, and announced in capital letters, Whoso pulleth out the sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king-born of all England. Now who said that? Asked Sir Grenmore. But the sword said it, like I tell you. Talkative weapon, remarked Sir Grenmore skeptically. That was written on it, cried the king angrily. Written on it in letters of gold. Why didn't you pull it out then? Asked Sir Grenmore. But I tell you that I wasn't there. All of this that I am telling you was told to me by that friar I was telling you of, like I tell you. Has the sword with the inscription been pulled out? Inquired Sir Ector. No, whispered King Pellinore dramatically. That's where the whole excitement comes in. I can't pull this sword out at all, although they have been trying, like for fun, so they have had to proclaim a tournament all over England for New Year's Day, so that the man who comes to the tournament and pulls out the sword can be king of all England forever. What I say? Oh, father, cried Kay. The man who pulls out that sword of the stone will be the king of England? Can't we go to the tournament, father, and have a shot? I couldn't think of it, said Sir Ector. Long way to London, said Sir Grenmore, shaking his head. My father went there once, said King Pellinore. Kay said, Oh, surely we could go. When I am knighted, I shall have to go to a tournament somewhere, and this one happens just at the right date. All the best people will be there, and we should see the famous knights and great kings. It does not matter about the sword, of course, but think of the tournament, probably the greatest that there has ever been in Greymere, and all the things that we should see and do. Dear father, let me go to this tourney, if you love me, so that I may bear away the prize of all, in my maiden fight. But Kay, said Sir Ector, I've never been to London. All the more reason to go. I believe that anybody who does not go for a tournament like this will be proven that he has no noble blood in his veins. Think what people will say about us, if we do not go and have a shot at that sword. They will say that Sir Ector's family was too vulgar, and they knew that they had no chance. Well, we all know the family has no chance, said Sir Ector. That is, for the sword. Lot of people in London, remarked Sir Grenmore, with a wild surmise. So they say. He took a deep breath and goggled at his host with his eyes like marbles. And shops, added King Pellinore suddenly, also beginning to breathe heavily. Dang it, cried Sir Ector, bumping his horn mug on the table so that it spilled. Let's all go to London then, and then see the new king. They rose up as one man. Why shouldn't I be as good as any man as my father? Exclaimed King Pellinore. Dash it all, cried Sir Grenmore. After all, darn it all, it is the capital. Hooray! Shouted Kay. Lord have mercy, said the nurse. At this moment the wart came in with Merlin, and everybody was too excited to notice that if he had not been grown up now, he would have been on the verge of tears. Oh, wart! Cried Kay, forgetting the moment that he was only addressing a squire, and then slipping back into the familiarity of their boyhood. What do you think? We're all going to London for a great tournament on New Year's Day. Are we? Yes, and you will carry my shield and spears for the jousts, and I shall win the palm of everybody and be a great knight. Well, I'm glad we're going, said the wart, for Merlin is leaving us too. Oh, we shan't need Merlin. He is leaving us, repeated the wart. Leaving us? Asked Sir Ector. I thought it was we that were leaving. He's going away from the Forest Sauvage. Sir Ector said, Oh, come now, Merlin, but what's this all about? I do not understand this a bit. I have come to say goodbye, Sir Ector, said the old magician. Tomorrow my pupil Kay will be knighted, and the next week my other pupil will go away as a squire. I have outlived my usefulness here, and it is time to go. No, don't say that, said Sir Ector. I think you're a jolly useful chap, whatever happens. You just stay and teach me, or be the librarian or something. Don't you leave an old man alone after the children have flown? Oh, we shall all meet again, said Merlin. There is no cause to be sad. Don't go, said Kay. I must go, replied the tutor. We have had a good time while we were young, but it is the nature of time to fly. There are many things in other parts of the kingdom with which I ought to be attending to just now, and it's specifically busy time for me. Come now, Archimedes, say goodbye to the company. Goodbye, said Archimedes tenderly to the wart. Goodbye, said the wart, without looking up at all. But you can't go, cried Sir Ector. Not without a month's notice. Can't I? Replied Merlin, taking up the position always used by the philosophers who purpose to dematerialize. He stood on his toes while Archimedes held tight to his shoulders, and he began to spin on them slowly like a top. He spun faster and faster until he was only a blur of grayish light, and in a few seconds there was no one there at all. Goodbye, Wart, cried two faint voices outside the solar window. Goodbye, said the wart for the last time, and the poor fellow went quickly out of the room.